Good evening, and welcome to this meeting of the Washington County Board of Education. At this time, I call the meeting to order and declare a quorum. We have 6 members present this evening. This evening, we have a 4th grade student from Bester Elementary School here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. It's my pleasure to introduce Leland Fraley, 4th grader at Bester. Leland, would you come to the microphone, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We will now say the Bester Pledge. Believe in yourself, exercise self-control, strive for excellence, and take responsibility.
Thank you, Leland.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I like that.
So Leland, would you like to come back to the microphone?
Yeah.
You have some people here with you this evening that you might want to introduce. Your teacher, your principal, your family. Can you talk into the microphone so we can hear you?
Layla.
Layla.
Layla? Oh, Layla, nice.
Thanks for being here for Leland.
Hi.
Any other family you'd like to introduce Leland?
Dad.
That's your dad.
Hi.
Hi. Would you like to tell us the names of your teacher and your principal?
Miss Baynard.
That's your teacher, right?
Miss Wilson.
Miss Wilson, and you have another person here with you, right? Miss Williamson? Over here?
Hi.
Yes?
Surprise.
And more family? I cut you off when you were introducing family. Do you have some more family you would just like to say their name for us?
Angel.
Okay.
Hello.
She's snorting.
Anyone else?
Now.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
are certainly very fortunate to have all these people here supporting you this evening, and we thank them for bringing you here to us. I want to thank you for not thinking me a crazy woman when I asked you how things were at Cascade, because in my rushed state, when I came in a little later than usual to the meeting, I had in my mind that you were a 4th grade student at Cascade. So I said, how are things at Cascade? And you didn't bat an eye. You just didn't think, well, what are you talking about, lady? So I'll ask you, how are things going at Bester?
Good.
Good? I used to teach at Bester. So I like Bester. Bester students are great.
What grade did you teach?
Oh, I was a special teacher. I was a Title I reading resource teacher there. So I didn't have my own classroom, but I got to go into every other classroom, which was a great experience for me. So thanks for asking. What's your favorite part of school, Leland?
PE.
PE. Is there something special about PE that you enjoy?
I like to do the sports.
You have a favorite sport? Or you love them all?
I like 2 sports.
Yeah.
I like basketball and football.
Well, you're tall. I bet you're a good basketball player. Well, Leland, we thank you so much for being here and getting our meeting started with the pledge and a moment of silence. So Good luck to you this school year. Thanks for coming.
Leland, you do have the coolest shirt I ever saw.
That is cool.
Love the sparkle. Okay, so we'll move to the approval of this evening's agenda. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zedmeyer. Any discussion of the agenda? All those in favor? All right, we have 6 affirmative. We have an approved agenda. We have approval of the minutes.
Yes, Mrs. Williams, I have 2 motions this evening. The first one will be approval of the closed session minutes dated Tuesday, October 4th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. We move to the vote on the closed session minutes dated October 4th, 2022. All those in favor of approval? All right, we have 6 affirmative. Those minutes have been approved.
The second motion I have is for the approval of the business meeting minutes dated October the 4th, 2022.
Thank you, Mr. Gressford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Are there any additions or corrections to the business meeting minutes of October 4th, 2022? Dr. Zentmeyer? No?
I was teasing
You
you.
were teasing? Thanks for making me smile. No additions or corrections, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? We have 6 affirmative. And we have an approved set of business meeting minutes for October 4th. I will have the superintendent's report, and then we will continue after new business, the superintendent's report. So Dr. Sovine?
President Williams, members of the board, 7 years ago, Washington County Public Schools was asked by the state to pilot a student apprenticeship program, one that would give our students real hands-on learning experiences in their career field, and one that would also give them a real paycheck. That program has grown into the most robust apprenticeship program in Maryland, with more apprentices employed by more area businesses than any other county. I'd like to invite Dr. Willow, as well as Wendy Moore, our apprenticeship coordinator, all of our student apprentices, to provide this board and the public with an additional update. Dr. Willow.
Well, good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. It's really an honor to sit up here tonight. Previously, at some of these board meetings, we've had the opportunity to talk with you about the apprenticeship program. But tonight, we have Meritus staff here, along with 3 of our apprentices at Meritus. Currently, we have 9 apprentices out at Meritus, and while I don't want to share too much excitement, there is an opportunity for potentially many more. Now, normally I'd start with introductions, but we've actually gone out and thankful for our communications team have put together a video that we're actually going to start with, and then we'll do introductions after the video.
My name is Wanda Herrera, and I'm a security officer here at Meritus Health. Some of my responsibilities are checking bags to make sure that there's no weapons in it, checking your ID to make sure you're actually the person you say who you are, and make sure you go to the right place and don't get lost in the hospital. I'm proud to work at Meritus in the field I'm studying. It means a lot because I get to help people and make sure they're safe.
Meritus Health is just thrilled to participate with the Washington County Public School System in this apprenticeship program.
We're getting them ready to enter the workforce, and they are part of our workforce now.
Our mission is to improve the health of our community. So having people from our own community, taking care of our community, it's just awesome.
My name is Paris Rice, and I am a medical secretary apprentice at Meritus Health. I come here from school, usually start off in the back, scheduling patients, rescheduling patients, and then I move up to the front and I check them in and out. I'm expanding on the skills that I learned in my biomed class by actually doing it in real life rather than just studying it in a textbook and practicing with my classmates.
It's your trifecta of wins because Meredith gets a win because we have openings. Our patients win because we now have additional staff to fill some of our open positions. And I think the education wins as far as the education system for Washington County because we're providing additional areas where students can learn.
I transport patients, mainly it's from their room to X-ray or radiology, that's the main ones. My favorite part about my job is interacting with the patients. I like going to go get the patient and talking to them. I can tell just from like the small interactions that I have with some of the patients, I can put a smile on their face, and that's really the most important part of it.
We definitely are going to continue this partnership. It's been very successful.
It really builds a pipeline for engaged and inspired individuals and students who want to work in healthcare.
This is the first year that we've done it, and we've had great success with it. The students have enjoyed it. Our coaches, our leadership team has enjoyed it.
That real life experience goes so far. You learn a lot from your classroom, and you can't learn enough, but being at the front with somebody makes a huge difference as well. So we're thrilled to be able to give that environment for people to learn and apply all that they've learned.
What I would say to someone thinking about something like this apprenticeship would to be to just go for it. It's something that kind of comes once in a lifetime to work at a place like Meredith or in a medical environment at such a young age.
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Miss Wendy Moore, who is our apprenticeship coordinator.
Good evening. We are extremely proud of our partnership with Meredith Health. Meredith currently employs apprentices across multiple occupations and are dedicated to supporting our students through excellent mentorship and quality work-based learning experiences. At this time, I'd like to introduce Meredith Health Talent Acquisition Specialist, Randy Burke.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here today and for the opportunity to participate in the apprenticeship program. At Meredith, we were very excited for the opportunity to partner with this amazing program. We saw this as a chance to work within our community to offer students an opportunity to obtain real-life experience within their chosen fields of study. We also recognize that these students would be helping us out too by filling current open positions, which allows our organization to better serve our community. We have received a lot of positive feedback from our coaches and team members regarding the success of this program and look forward to a continued partnership. I want to give a huge thanks to the students here today who are directly responsible for making this program a success at Meredith. So thank you.
I'd now like to formally introduce you to the talent of the video, our 3 Meredith apprentices, Wonder Herrera, who is a security officer apprentice, transporter apprentice Amaya Knowlton, and Paris Rice, our medical secretary apprentice. These apprentices are all seniors at the Boyd J. Michael III Technical High School and are model examples of how apprenticeship enhances what is taught in their CTE classrooms. They would like to share with you how their apprenticeship experience has positively impacted their high school career. Wonder?
Hello, my name is Wonder Herrera, and hospitals are recognized as critical infrastructure by the Department of Homeland Security, meaning that if it were to be compromised, it could severely impact the well-being and function of the community at large. My training in Homeland has helped me pay attention to details that may otherwise go unnoticed, such as the actions of specific people or the importance of something as simple as a fire drill. Some of the skills that I've learned in the classroom that I can expand to my job are soft skills like observation, attention to detail, or even a firm handshake. These skills help me present a command presence which hopefully both deters bad actors and reassures those that need to be kept safe. For me, it has greatly impacted my career goals. When I graduate high school, I want to be a cybersecurity specialist. Working at Meredith as a security officer has taught me to maintain a safe environment, patrol the perimeter, and use surveillance equipment to monitor and perform security checks required for the visitors to the site. I can apply this to cybersecurity and things I do in my daily life. I feel like the idea of being an apprentice will teach young adults how the real world works and the importance of doing your job right.
I'm very proud to say that Wonder recently won the Good Catch Award, which Meredith awards to employees who have prevented a harmful situation in the hospital. So we're very proud of him for winning that award. Amaya?
Hi, my name is Amaya Knowlton, and I'm a transport apprentice at Meritus Medical Center. Being in the technical program has given me skills to prepare me for my future career and personal uses. I further had to come out of my shell and learn communication both in and out of work. I've learned how to work with people who are undergoing care. Being in this apprenticeship has allowed me to get a beneficial learning experience. I've been able to use these skills I've been taught to help me in the position I'm in now. Being in the program and an apprentice has helped me hand in hand, and I couldn't be more grateful for this educational experience I have endured. Working my apprenticeship into my school and work schedule was a little much at first, but I worked out a routine to keep me on track. Being an apprentice has allowed me to do things like explore hospital protocols, get hands-on in patient care, and learn how to communicate with healthcare professionals. Working with my manager and current coworkers has been a great experience. I have exhibited advice and working skills that I can use every day for the rest of my life. They have made me feel welcome in the department and has taught me how to be successful in my job and future jobs I may come across later in life. I have never wanted to expand my learning and career goals more than I do now that I've been an apprentice.
Paris?
It's easy to learn about a concept in a classroom, but it's when you get hands-on experience with a certain skill that it is really enhanced. My name's Paris, and I'm a medical secretary apprentice at Meritus, spending most of my workday calling and rescheduling patients as well as checking them in and out of the office. Working in a family medicine practice, I've been given the opportunity to enhance my own communication and strengthen my collaboration with others. In addition, I've been able to expand on concepts I've studied in my biomed program at Tech. Some of these concepts include HIPAA and patient care and interaction. Working with patients has taught me the importance of confidentiality and has allowed me to further expand on my soft skills needed to create the best patient experience. I'm very thankful for this opportunity. My involvement in this apprenticeship is helping me pave the way for my future career in the medical field.
And I
Dr.
think
Sovine, can we talk for just a few minutes? Are you finished?
we
with
were
your
actually just
presentation?
about to ask if there were any questions for board members, so.
I don't have a question, but I have several comments. First of all, what wonderful spokespeople for our apprenticeship program. You're awesome. So here's a question. Were you seeing this video for the first time?
Yes.
In fact, I could tell wonder by your expression that I suspected that you may have been. If you are not keeping a journal, I would encourage you to do so, and I would make this entry your first one if you're not keeping one already, because these are experiences that you will want to look back on and remember for the rest of your lives. You are doing incredible things. So proud of you. So proud.
Thank you.
Colleagues?
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I can echo everything that you said, but to know that we have you representing us is like so cool. You did such a great job. Thank you.
So I actually have a couple questions. I mean, I'm very interested in this. You guys are obviously doing a phenomenal job. You have staff members spending their evening to come out here with you as well. So obviously you're doing great things. For any one of you, how did you guys choose Meritus? Did you go through an application process? What'd that look like?
For me, I was at school and my teacher posted like on Google Classroom about the apprenticeship. And at the time, I just wanted to work and do something. Mm-hmm. And since being a security officer helps me in my homeland security degree and what I want to do as a cybersecurity operative, I decided to take up the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you guys probably had an actual job interview. You probably had to get dressed up. And could you guys tell us a little more about that process?
For me, back in like April, I went there, sat down with my supervisor, and we just talked about the job and like if I really want to do it, and basically that's it.
Very good, very good. So, well, thank you guys. I think you guys are doing a great job, and you know, especially that journal part. I'm sure Meritus wants you to stay there after high school and continue there for a long time. But sometimes the position you want just may not be available. So that journal that Mrs. Williams is talking about could be very helpful for when you are searching for other jobs. You can show that to your future employers as well.
Paris, I have a question for you. About how many hours do you work?
It varies on the day. Working with my school schedule, late days in the office are on Mondays and Tuesdays, so those are usually my longer days. Because of my biomed class, I get out earlier on those days, so that's usually the day I end up working the longest, which is around 5 hours on Mondays. Throughout the rest of the week, we close at 5, so it's usually around, I'd say, 2.5 hours to 3.
I have one more question.
Sure.
So if a student who may or may not be watching this and may just know you, ask you, I'm really thinking about doing this, what would you say to them?
Do it.
Go for it, definitely go for it. It really will help you like mature and stuff as a person and learn how to be compassionate towards other people.
I also want to thank you because 5 of us just returned from a convention in Annapolis with other Board of Education members, and the state superintendent of schools was there, and he was comparing counties, and we all like to be number one, right? Well, Washington County was by far number one with its apprenticeship program. He showed a chart, and now we know we're piloting it, so it's a little bit unfair, but the fact that we're so far ahead of even Frederick to our neighboring county when it comes to apprentices, people are really taking to this program. They're watching Washington County. We even saw a few counties go, how is Washington County doing that, right? So it was really a sense of pride to represent Washington County, and you made that possible. And I would also say, as somebody who has hired many young people in my career, the fact that you haven't even been in college yet and you have professional experience to put on your resume is huge. Because I know people that go through 4 or 5 years of college and start to put in their resume, and all they have really is, working at the typical jobs you have in college. So the fact that you have professional experience is going to pay off.
Yes, I just want to say, you 3 have such a professional demeanor. I was so impressed with that, probably more than some adults I've seen in public. So thank you so much for that. And Amaya, what did you say you wanted to do when you graduate?
I want to be a nurse.
Oh, good for you. And you're starting out so well. And to want to put a smile on, and that lady was just you were so engaged with her. That was so great to see.
you.
Thank you all so very much for representing us and the great job that you're doing. And thank you so much for helping us to achieve our goals.
Tech High has such amazing programs, and I feel like it's kind of weird as a student to be like, oh, thank you, but really thank you. I have friends at Tech, and I know how awesome, when they'll tell me stories about, their classes at Tech and their apprenticeships as well, and it truly is an amazing program, so yeah, thank you.
And I would just like to add, I want to thank Meritus. Our business community in this county has been phenomenal. And while Meritus is here tonight, I think they really represent all of our businesses that we could have featured tonight. And, the apprenticeship is truly a partnership between our businesses and WCPS. And so I'm grateful that Meritus was here tonight, but I think we're also grateful for all of the support we get in our county.
Do you know, can you list a few of the other companies around Washington County that have apprenticeship students that are in? Do we have any more?
Well, I'm actually going to defer that to Ms. Moore because she's probably capable of rattling
Happy
them
to
off
get you
quicker.
a list of all the apprentices in the county we have and where.
That'd be great.
Yes.
That would be wonderful. Thank
Absolutely. We're getting ready to hit 100, so.
you. Really?
Yeah.
100 students?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we got 3 here, and we're thinking this is
Number one
great.
in- number
Now we got
one in the
100.
state.
Wow.
One in the state.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Thank
making
you.
us number one.
Yeah, really.
Thank you, Meredith. Thank you so much for providing the opportunity for our students, and students' best wishes. Make us proud, make yourselves proud, because you certainly did it tonight. Thank you. This is the portion of our meeting where we have public comment. We have no one who has signed up in advance. That is not a requirement. If there's anyone who wishes to speak during public comment, they certainly may. Do we have anyone at this time that would like to come forward to speak? Good evening, Mr. Lowen. You're familiar with the policy. I don't need to go over it with you. Mr.
Have it
Bickford's the top.
memorized.
You have it memorized?
Word for word.
I don't even have that. Mr. Bickford is the timer, so good evening.
Good evening. My name is Ethan Lowen. 4 weeks ago, I made the point to this board that equity ideology, which has been growing in our public schools on a national level for 20 years or longer, has over the last several years made its way into our community schools. And the reason that is such a dangerous set of ideas to feed our children and subject our teachers and staff to is because equity ideology, despite its sophisticating sounding title, simply puts people, children included, into groups based on skin color, gender, ethnicity, and then defines for them who they are based upon the equity ideologist's definition of that group. Most concerning, it has established a hierarchy for each group and has assigned which groups get benefits and which must give something up in order to be, quote, equitable. That issue has taken on an entirely new level of importance when 2 weeks ago the Vice President of the United States stated that relief for Hurricane Ian was going to be based upon economic need. But also, in order to remain equitable, a person's skin color would be a determining factor. Equity ideology has become the official position of the current presidential administration. In other words, after decades of families like mine, who are made up of multiple minority groups, who have enjoyed 3 generations of a bigotry-free legal code, bigoted laws are back. But this time, it's targeting those of Caucasian heritage and heterosexuals. And I promise you, my family and I, despite being theoretical beneficiaries of equity ideology, are very disturbed. Aside from us being an anti-bigotry family, history is clear. Once the classification of citizens begins, the troubles grow and grow. For example, 4 weeks ago, I was talking to this board about, or trying to warn this board about one teachers union in a different state that has chosen to lay off Caucasian teachers before any other ethnicity. Today, I'm speaking about the federal government's racist response to a natural disaster. Another important lesson is that the reason the presidential administration has chosen now to begin these policies is because they have observed how local governments have ignored their citizens, primarily the parents at school board meetings across the country like these. As the saying goes, all politics is local, and local politics sets the stone for national policies. In other words, if the majority of school boards across America hadn't treated parents like a problem, then relief for Hurricane Ian would very likely still be based upon the economic need of each person. I do want to point out that race-based equity ideology shows itself in the public schools mostly in hiring practices of teachers and staff. However, the part of equity ideology that is directly taught to children is equity ideology's beliefs about sexuality. Those beliefs are referred to as gender equity. Yes, equity ideology also has categories set up for people regarding their sexuality, and students are taught those lists and how they are to define themselves based upon the definitions equity ideology gives them. The most obvious way this is being forced upon our children is regarding the pornographic library books we have in our schools. The rationale of equity ideology to defend these library books is that it helps to teach children the LGBT list of sexual categories. However, I promise you that the list of LGBT individuals who are shocked when they find out that schools are defining sexuality for children is large. As one such individual told me, no one needs to be told who they are attracted to. If that's being put in front of children, it's because they want to influence the decision. And that's the truth. But to make matters worse is the effects that exposure to pornography has on a child's brain. It changes the physical development of their brain. Specifically, it changes the development of their prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain that is used to regulate emotions and helps with long-term decision making. And that is why parents are horrified by the equity ideologist's insistence on exposing children to sexuality and pornography. Some things we know just by being alive. It doesn't take a scientist to explain common sense. However, this board's championing of gender equity does not stop with pornographic library books. There's also the 3 R's curriculum that every 6th grader was enrolled in last year. The 3 R's curriculum is created by an equity ideology group called Advocates for Youth. I want to quote to you the Advocates for Youth's mission statement on their website and their promotional materials. Quote, Youth Advocate works with governments and communities to advance women's and youth sexual reproductive health and rights, unquote. Innocent enough. Now I also want to read to you the description they give of themselves on their IRS filings, because there is a level of honesty that an organization needs to have with tax filings in order to avoid legal problems. This is how they describe themselves to the government. Quote, Advocates trains thousands of youth each year to be leaders in the progressive movement. I'll read that again. Advocates trains thousands of youth each year to be leaders in the progressive movement. In other words, this board paid how many tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to ensure that every sixth grader in this county was enrolled in an indoctrination program intended to teach them to become youth leaders in the progressive movement? And does anyone find this shocking, that an organization who sells a sexuality curriculum that damages children would also propagandize itself to attract people to be champions of its ideology, while in reality it is using the public schools to advance its organization to be a larger and more powerful part of our political system? And here we sit in our county, 3 weeks before an election where we have 6 candidates for the Board of Education, 3 of whom believe that dividing children into groups is deeply wrong, and we have 3 equity ideologists, of which the 2 most vocal have been endorsed by the local teachers union. We must take heed from the parents all over our country who have been dealing with this for years and ensure that we do not elect board members who will do to our children what so many boards of education have done to other families.
Expired.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Good evening. I know you're familiar with policy
I'm familiar.
and our timer.
Sorry, am I on? Yep. Thank you. I didn't plan to speak, but now I have the opportunity to speak and share just a few things. Again, Neil Becker, Washington County Teachers Association President, proud parent of students who are graduates and a current senior in Washington County Public Schools, a 30-year educator in Washington County Public Schools, and I have never, ever heard equity ideology mentioned in any professional development policy in Washington County Public Schools. I have no clue what it is in Washington County Public Schools, but apparently we're doing it. And I, as the association president, must be very involved in it. I do want to point out, there is equity in Washington County Public Schools. We offer comprehensive educational opportunities to every single student who walks through the door. A few examples: the same opportunities for every student in every school. Gifted and talented opportunities, special education, including 504s and IEPs. Marshall Street School and the Job Development Center. One-to-one devices for all our students. Sports and arts, and countless other opportunities. That is equity. We embrace every child who walks through the door and gives them the opportunities to succeed. And we just saw the examples of it, of our young people being leaders in the community. Regarding hiring, you as the Washington County Board of Education and Washington County Public Schools are well aware of the non-discrimination rules you must follow. And regarding the recommendation and endorsement process, there are some recommendations, 2 recommended Board of Education candidates, since they were brought up by the previous speaker. Of all the candidates, 3 candidates participated in the process. So we cannot recommend candidates who don't complete a survey or sit for an interview. We're very transparent, and only candidates who participate in the process can be recommended. So again, I commend Washington County Public Schools and the Washington County Board of Education for your opportunities, or your effort to provide equitable opportunities for all the students who walk through the doors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Anyone else? Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board. Is this mic on? Yes. Okay, thank you so much. My name's Carol Mallon. I'm a teacher at Washington County Technical High School, and I came tonight to support my students. I'm so proud of them. I had 1 last year, and then 2 are students this year. And Wonder had asked me if I would watch the board meeting, and I said, yeah, I think I will. And then I said to my husband this morning, I think I'll go. So I'm very glad I did. I was not planning to speak, but I just want to share something from my heart that I was thinking as I was listening to the public comment. I guess it was probably 2014 or 2015 when I was at Tech and I was teaching AP Lang. A high school student approached me and she said, Miss Mallon, I really, really would like to have a pride club. at Tech High for LGBTQ students to come together and support one another and to feel that they are in a safe place in their school. And I got married in 1987 and I have 2 children and would consider myself quite heterosexual and not in any way outwardly emanating the fact that I would be interested in being a Pride Club sponsor. I said, well, yeah, let me look into it and I'll find out if we can do that. And I did look into it and we did end up starting a Pride Club and I'm still the advisor there. And the work that we're doing is in not any way, shape, or form as has been characterized by one of the former speakers. We have students who need to feel that they are loved and accepted and in a safe space when they are in our classrooms and in our schools. If that is embracing some kind of ideology that I'm not aware of, I would say that is just shocking to me. Even my church and denomination says no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. And it doesn't matter what your sexual orientation, what your gender, what your gender identity, what your race, color, creed, religion. I just want you to make sure before you make any decisions about curriculum matters or other issues related to what this former speaker has said, that you contact our teachers and our students and you get the facts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mallon. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward? Thank you to all those who have come forward to speak during public comment at this time. We'll have board member response to public comment. Colleagues, anyone care to respond? No? Okay, then we'll move to old business, of which we have none, and then we'll go right to new business. Our first item of new business is this evening's consent agenda with Mr. Scott Baker, Supervisor of Purchasing, presenting. Good evening, Mr. Baker.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, Dr. Sovine. Tonight I have 3 items for your review. Purchasing Review Committee has reviewed these items and they are being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion, please?
Madam President, I move to approve awards, renewals, and procurements for kitchen equipment at various schools to MTS Equipment at a total cost of $325,168, and Weiss Brothers at a total cost of $28,261.35. Microsoft Unified Support Services to Microsoft at a cost of $126,738. And system-wide copy print hardware service software to Marco Technologies LLC at a 5-year approximate cost of $1,473,060.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion? Mr. Gesser?
Thank you. I just happened to be looking through the kitchen equipment, various schools, and I was wondering, I'm looking at the comparables. Are we comparing apples to apples when it comes to the name brand of the equipment, so that we're not saying you give us, a low brand versus, a Vulcan, because we know that there's a huge difference, and I just wondered if we take in consideration that.
We do. We don't spec. We provide a reference brand. So I think in the case of the dishwashing, it was a Champion, and we allow. Then we say Champion is an acceptable brand, and we give them a model number as well, and we give them the opportunity then to submit alternate manufacturers, and if they submit alternate manufacturers, our food service folks will review those, make sure the specs are equal, and then we'll put something out in an addendum to the bidders and say, along with the Champion, you can also bid ABC, XYZ. So we kind of pre-approve and make sure that what we get in is for pricing is an acceptable product. Because the last thing we want is somebody to bid something that we would then deem not acceptable and have to, consider their bid non-responsive. So yeah, everybody actually bid. We didn't get any alternate submissions. So everybody bid what we had spec'd out.
So the retherm machines they're just reheatable units?
Correct, yes.
So are those schools that produce food, or are they just there to just reheat and?
I believe reheat, but that's kind of, I don't know for sure.
I was just wondering if there was.
I need you to answer that. Thank you.
Specifically looking at the retherm units, those are two schools that do not have their own cooking capabilities.
Okay.
So depending on the
That
menu
makes
item,
sense.
it may be, and these are both in the Smithsburg area. Those items are made at Smithsburg High School, transported to the schools. There are certain menu items that can be just brought up to temperature in a retherm unit, similar to what you would in an oven, that may have been prepared the day before or may have been created by a manufacturer that's kept frozen or cold, that can be just put into the retherm unit to bring up to proper temperature.
That would make sense then. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, two quick questions. For item number 3, the print hardware, if I remember correctly, we hired a consulting firm. Is this a result of that?
It is.
Okay. And then my only other question is the Unified Support Services. I mean, I understand we need to get the training to our IT staff. $126,000, I'm guessing that's per year. Is there something, I mean, can we only go through Microsoft through that? Are there contracted vendors that might be able to do it cheaper? It just seems like an awful lot of money each year to get. It seems like it's mainly just training, or is there something more that I'm missing?
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sovine, members of the board. Thank you for the question. I'm Joe Allen, Executive Director of Technology. It is a lot of money. It is money that we have paid to Microsoft each year. And it's not just training. What it encompasses is the support that we get. So when we have Microsoft equipment that runs all of our networks. So if we have a challenge, it provides us with a set of engineers that we can call, and they help us untangle situations and things like that. So it is some training for our team, but it goes beyond that as well.
How frequently do we need to use those engineering services?
We call them,
Roughly, obviously it's not set, but.
It's many dozen times a year,
Yeah.
over the course of a year, so, yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting on approval of this evening's consent agenda as presented. All those in favor of approval? Okay, we have 6 affirmative and the student member concurs. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item is consideration of the Board of Education's Advisory Committee appointments. We have Dr. Jennifer Webster, Associate Superintendent for Administration and Leadership, presenting.
Good evening, Mrs. Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. As shared during closed session, I ask for your approval of the candidates for consideration as a member of one of the Board of Education advisory committees.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion?
Williams, I move to approve proposed candidates for membership on one of the Board of Education advisory committees.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second? Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions? Any discussion? All right, and we're moving to approve the proposed candidates for membership on an advisory committee of the board. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative. We have approval. Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is with us again for our next agenda item, which is action on the calendar modification for the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you, Mrs. Williams. We are seeking approval for changes to the 2022-2023 school calendar. This request is the reallocation of the paid holiday affecting our education support personnel from February 20th, 2023 to November 23rd, 2022. The school system is closed to students and staff on both days. This modification changes the allocation of the paid holiday between those 2 dates.
Thank you, Dr. Webster. Is there a motion?
President Williams, I move to approve the calendar modification for the 2022-2023 school year.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion? No, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the recommended calendar modification for the 2022-2023 school year. All those in favor? Okay, we have 6 affirmative votes and the student member concurs. Thank you. Dr. Webster. Okay. Our next agenda item is consideration of the board's operating norms and communication processes. We have Mrs. Ram with us this evening, our chief legal counsel. Mrs. Ram?
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. The board met at a public work session on August 16, 2022 to discuss their operating norms as well as communication processes. During that work session, there were suggested changes in proposed language. What you have before you is language that was consensus was reached, as well as suggested language that was presented in closed session on October 4th, 2022 for your review and approval tonight.
Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Is there a motion?
These are 2 separate motions? Okay.
Yes.
Madam President, I move to approve the Washington County Board of Education operating norms.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion of the norms? All those in favor of approval? Okay. 6 affirmative, so we have approval of the norms.
Madam President, I move to approve the Washington County Board of Education communication processes.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions or any discussion regarding the communication processes? Okay, then we'll move to the vote. We're voting for approval of the communication processes of the board as presented. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. We have 6 affirmative, so we now have an approved set of norms and communication processes. Thank you, Mrs. Ram. Mrs. Ram will also be presenting this next action item, which is the first reading of proposed changes to policy JC, permission to attend school out of home school attendance area.
The Policy Committee is conducting a comprehensive view of the student section of the Board of Education's policy manual. The committee began its review of policy JC at its public work session on February 23rd, 2021, and continued its review at subsequent work sessions on March 23rd and April 27th, 2021, and September 13th and October 11th, 2022. The committee is recommending several changes to the policy, including placing the policy in the correct format and defining designated attendance area. The appeals process and the criteria for rescinding special permission have been removed from the policy and will be placed in the accompanying administrative regulation. The committee is requesting the Board of Education to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JC.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JC entitled Permission to Attend School Out of Home School Attendance Area.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions, any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question, couple of them. So why exactly are we changing this policy?
So a couple of, one, the correct format, but we also, the policy previously did not have a definition of designated attendance area, and it was used throughout the policy. So in order to apply it consistently, you can't have different definitions, so we spelled that out. Additionally, there wasn't language designated about parents or legal guardians making this choice or request, so we cleaned that up, and that part of the process requires an application, but the policy didn't state that, so we wanted to codify that that is the practice. And then to be consistent with the rest of our policies, I made the recommendation that we had language in policy that would be more appropriate in regulation as is consistent with our other policies. So some of it was striking it to move it to regulation, not doing away with it.
So I just have a problem because in here, and we talked about this, we voted on this policy in the past, and we're bringing it up again, and my problem with it was regarding the rescission of special permission, and we originally took out the child's attendance, behavior, and grades that, I believe that's what it was, that was a reason that the permission could be rescinded. So now we're just taking that out and taking the ability for the principal, who is the one that grants the permission, we're taking the ability for him to take that permission away from the principal. So that doesn't make sense to me. If the principal is the one that makes the decision in the first place, why would we take that authority away from the principal? We hire them to run the schools. Why can't we let them keep that?
And we're not. So let me speak to that a moment. So the policy came before the board before I started, and I saw what was originally struck out. We met as a policy committee again, and after doing research on what other school systems were doing, as well as recent case law decisions, I strongly recommended that not be struck out. It should remain with the principal and that language remain in there. So we're not removing that, saying it'll go in the regulation, it won't be in the policy. We're not striking it all together. The recommendation is to move that to the regulation because that's a procedural matter, and procedures are typically in our regulations, not in policy. So I can appreciate where that's confusing because I did see the policy that came before the board before where it was recommended that be struck out. The recommendation of the policy committee this time is that not to be eliminated, it to be moved to the regulation.
Okay, so that's fair. Then why are we still taking that? So is the regulation then going to add the child's attendance, all those three criteria to?
That's the recommendation at this time. The superintendent promulgates an administrative regulation, so the recommendation from the legal department, who works with the related and relevant departments to put forth a regulation before the superintendent, the recommendation that will be made to the superintendent is that language is in the regulation.
I guess my biggest concern with this is that we're giving special permission, we call it a privilege, right? And now, I mean, I don't see the regulation that you're talking about. All I see is that we're taking away the criteria that can take that privilege away if a kid isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing. That makes it very difficult to vote for.
Mr. Evans, I really can appreciate that. The part you don't have in front of you is the comments in the track document that we use to formulate the regulation that has legal department's recommendation that be a part of the regulation. At that public meeting, I very publicly represented that it is appropriate, it's consistent with the law, it's consistent with case law, it's consistent with other school systems that is criteria. It just is more in how we do our policies and regulations. It's just language, it should be in the regulation. I can assure you that's a recommendation that will be made to the superintendent. I just can't guarantee, obviously, because that's a process.
And that's why I'm not going to be able to vote for this. I understand what you're saying, but what I see in writing here is something that doesn't make sense to me. So if I was able to see something more in writing that helped me justify an affirmative vote, I'd be for it, but this doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, if I could see what you're saying, then I would probably be on board with it, but what I have in front of me, I can't support it.
Madam President?
Yes, sir.
If I may, just to assist board members and also Mrs. Ram, as she's referenced, the intent of policy is very broad in nature, and to the issue of attendance and so forth, some of those actionary things that I believe is the item of issue are most appropriate in the regulation, and I know that is the recommendation of the legal team, and I think that was, I believe, part of the discussion through the committee. So I think that does speak to that issue, and certainly I'm in agreement with those level of details in terms of that being a privilege, and attendance and other items, if you're not in compliance, then that would jeopardize a student's ability to remain in that setting.
Yeah, Darryl, I can say that part of the discussion, it is sort of confusing because we talked about it before, and remember, we were leaving in attendance but taking out the other behavior issues just because it was subjective. But it is important it was important for the committee in the discussion that those criteria remain in place in the regulation. So we didn't approve it before. It came up as first reading. There wasn't really full board support, so we took it back, reworked it. And so we're pretty comfortable with where it is right now.
Any further discussion? Any other questions? And we'll move to the vote. We're moving to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy JC entitled Permission to Attend School Out of Home School Attendance Area. All those in favor? Okay, we have 5 affirmative. Those opposed? And the student member concurs with the affirmative. Is that correct, Ms. Cruz? Okay, motion carries, so we have an approved first read. Okay, we have a first reading of proposed changes to policy BCAD, student member of the Board of Education.
A previous student member of the Board of Education requested the Policy Committee to consider changes to Policy BCAD, including the addition of a scholarship to be awarded to the student member at the conclusion of the student's term. The Policy Committee discussed the proposed changes at its public work sessions on May 25th, June 8th, August 11th, and September 28th, 2021, and on June 15th, September 13th, and October 11th, 2022. The committee is proposing changes to the policy that include encouraging the student to attend the Maryland Association of Board of Education's new student board member orientation, and setting forth the meetings a student can attend and the items for which their position will be recorded. In addition, the changes being proposed would allow the Board of Education to grant the student either 1 credit of social studies and a scholarship towards post-secondary education, or the minimum number of required student service learning hours at the conclusion of each successfully completed year of board service. The student would not be permitted to receive more than 1 scholarship regardless of the number of years served. Furthermore, the proposed changes would allow the Board of Education to reimburse the student for out-of-pocket expenses that the student incurs while conducting official student member board business. The committee is recommending the Board of Education approve the first reading of the proposed changes to policy BCAD.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move to approve the first reading of proposed changes to policy BCAD entitled Student Member of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Any questions or any discussion?
I do have a question. Where it says a student will be excluded from attendance at closed session, closed committee meetings unless invited by the board. Have we ever needed a student to be in the board for a closed committee meeting?
Well, I've only been with the board a year, so not in my year with the board. Although, given what is discussed in closed session, it's highly unlikely that they would ever be invited to closed session.
Yeah, and I'm feeling I don't want to add that to that wording, only because it's hard to get wording removed in. So for me, that's a no. I think that's, an elected board member responsibility is for confidentiality, not that we would have a student and not taking May, and because I don't know May that well, because she's just a new member, so don't take this personal. It's just that I feel like, as being an elected, position, and versus a non-elected official, I think that needs to be a separate thing. So for me, I'm not for that. The other things, I'm fine with them having the ability to go and be a part of MABE, and I've given my money to the student reps so they could be a part of that. I have no problem with that. I think that's a thing. We should do that. But for being in, such private meetings that have potential for, sometimes young kids have loose lips, and I say that in a ginger way because not all students are that way, and sometimes it's unintentional. I mean, sometimes it's hard for us to not want to go out in public and say something, when you got somebody yelling at you saying, you need to do this, you need to do that, and we can't really explain why. I just feel like that's where I am at this point with that, so I would not support that wording.
I appreciate that, Mr. Gaspard, and since this is a first read, we will take note of that and bring it back to the policy committee, which meets again soon. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Striking that section, do we have to bring it back for first read? Is that a large enough change?
I don't believe it substantially changes the policy enough that during discussion, if we were to strike that it would prevent us from bringing it back to a second read, because it doesn't materially alter the overall intent of the policy.
All right, Mike, we'll bring it up at the committee
I-
and see if we get consensus.
I want to make sure that I understand what the objection is, because as I read that sentence, it appears to me to expand upon the thought that it says the student will be excluded from attendance at closed sessions, okay, and closed committee meetings. So it expands upon the idea of not only are they excluded from closed sessions, but they're also excluded from any closed committee meetings unless invited by the board. So is it the phrase "unless invited by the board" that you object to? Because it's stating clearly that a student will be excluded from closed sessions and closed meetings. So you don't want there ever to be the opportunity.
I don't think there should be an invitation for them to be in any closed session.
Regardless of the topic that's being discussed.
Correct.
So the language that you want to see struck is the "unless invited by the board"? Is that what you're
I
saying?
think that would be fair.
Okay, Mike, I'm not disagreeing, I just want to make sure
I know, I hear you.
understand when we get back to committee.
It's like we're in a policy committee meeting. This is the kind of
This is the
conversation
kind
we
of
have.
conversation. Yeah, clarity, okay,
No, that's all right.
okay. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. That was good feedback.
Any other discussion or any other questions? May?
So Kevin Bokuam, I wasn't in his student member role in Washington County, but on the State Board of Ed, he actually was invited to a closed session meeting. And again, like I know it's the state board, and they operate a bit differently. But he was invited because they were discussing matters specific to students, and they really wanted a student opinion. So I think striking that completely, to just not, I mean, if it's already given that the student will not be invited unless not indicated. Yeah, they will not go unless invited by a board member. So I feel like, I mean, it's already implied. So striking that completely it gives no opportunity. And Kevin did go to the closed session, and he was only there for about 10 minutes, but he still went.
So what I hear you saying is that you feel that it eliminates the possibility.
Yes.
Should there ever be a topic that we would want student input while in a closed session, that language would make it not possible.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? So we're voting on first read, approval. All those in favor of approval of the first read of policy BCAD, student member of the Board of Education? Okay, 4 affirmative, those opposed? 2. Student member concurs with the affirmatives. So we have a motion that carries with 4 affirmative. So we have an approved first read of policy BCAD. Thank you, Mrs. Ram. And we'll have the second half of the superintendent's report. Dr. Sovine.
Thank you, President Williams, members of the board. A cornerstone to promoting positive school cultures is rooted in positive character among our students, staff, and community. This week is Character Counts Week, and Helen Huffer, our supervisor of school counseling, is going to join us now to celebrate the 6 pillars of character.
Good evening, President Williams, members of the board, and Dr. Savine. October 16th through the 22nd of 2022 is recognized as Character Counts Week. Character Counts is a national program with a local chapter in Washington County to support positive character traits in school and the community. It is rooted in 6 pillars: respect, responsibility, trustworthiness, citizenship, caring, and fairness. At the elementary school level, these traits are incorporated into monthly lessons with students, and a trait is selected each month for students to demonstrate and be recognized as a student of the month. These traits are also incorporated through our positive behavior interventions and supports, PBIS and good standing programs at all levels. Students are taught ways to demonstrate these through their interactions with others and their behaviors to promote a positive school climate and culture. Please feel free to visit the charactercounts.org website and our local Washington County Character Counts Coalition website for more information about resources and ideas for promoting this in your home and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huffer. Continuing on, WCPS would like to recognize October as Learning Disabilities Awareness Month, and Dr. Jeff Gladhill, our Director of Special Education, is here to share a brief overview of resources and supports to meet the unique needs of each student. Dr. Gladhill.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. We recognize October as Learning Disabilities Awareness Month. It is our privilege to work with and support diverse and gifted learners with unique abilities and perspectives. We appreciate the expertise of our staff who work with students across a variety of settings, sometimes even beyond the school day. They work with our students and celebrate their successes, which range from excelling in the classroom, participating in extracurricular activities, and even authoring and illustrating books. That was something that was accomplished this past year. If you would like to participate in guiding the direction of special education services within the district, please join us the 3rd Wednesday of each month, with the exception of December, through the school year from 6:30 to 8 with the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee at Mercer Street School. We have resources available for our parents and stakeholders that's communicated throughout the county through our Special Education Parent Portal. We've actually created a link on all of our special education documents that you can access information about special education resources, and always feel free to contact us at any time if you have any questions. With that, thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you, Dr. Gladhill.
Wait, I do have a question. That's 6:30 to 8 in the evening?
Yes, PM.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Gladhill, is that online or is that in person now?
It's in person. Last month it was not because of some of the COVID elevations. This month it is planned to be actually tomorrow night at Mercer Street School. They were trying to link it in where you can observe it, but I'm not sure how it's going to work out with participation if you're virtually.
Gladhill for that clarification. So as I heard that, it will be offered in a hybrid format, in person and virtual. So appreciate that flexibility. This is a busy week. It's also National School Bus Safety Week. Our bus drivers and bus assistants transport our most precious cargo, our children. They take their jobs very seriously, following the rules of the road to get students safely to their destination. Our Supervisor of Transportation, Brian Johnson, is here to recognize our transportation staff and to share some important safety reminders.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Savine, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to talk briefly about National School Bus Safety Week. The mission of the Washington County Public Schools Transportation Department is to transport our students to and from school or activities safely. Twice each school day, over 19,000 students are transported using around 171 school buses. This year, our buses will travel over 3 million miles to do that. Due to the skill and dedication of our drivers, contractors, crossing guards, attendants, maintenance department, and other transportation office staff, we travel these miles with our most precious cargo, and we do that safely. But keeping our kids safe on the school bus involves the entire community. And to this end, the 3rd week in October is recognized as National School Bus Safety Week. It's a time to come together as a community to recognize that we all play that role in school bus safety. And here are a few examples of that. For our parents and students, it could be as simple as arriving to your bus stop about 5 minutes early. This is so students are not rushed, as running to the bus is not a safe practice. It's very dangerous to do so. Parents can talk to their children, particularly their younger students, about staying a good 3 giant steps away from that bus and waiting for that bus to come to a complete stop before boarding so that those lights are activated. We encourage all of our students to pay close attention to their driver when boarding and exiting the bus, as they're aware of what's going on around them, and also to always follow the directions of their school bus driver. To our motoring public, remember that it is illegal to pass a school bus with its red flashing lights and stop arm extended. Passing a school bus with its lights activated is extremely dangerous. Every year, one day is selected by each Maryland school district, usually in the spring, to conduct a stop arm passing survey. This year, throughout the spring, there were over 5,000 incidents in the state of Maryland throughout all the counties, and that's not full participation in one day of vehicles that were recorded as illegally passing the school bus with its arm deployed and red lights activated. Washington County accounted for 86 of these incidents. So I think we would all agree there's room for improvement there. As a reminder, the school bus approaches a stop, the yellow lights are activated. This is the signal that the bus is preparing to stop, to load or unload students, and motorists should slow down and be prepared to stop. When the red lights are activated and the stop arm is extended, you should stop. Keeping kids safe on the school bus takes all of us, and so to conclude my comments, I'd like to quote the final paragraph from Governor Hogan's proclamation of National School Bus Safety Week, which reads, "Maryland is pleased to join the nation in recognizing school bus safety in all 23 counties, Baltimore City and Seed School of Maryland, and recognize the school bus drivers and attendants who connect our children to their school communities and keep Maryland students safe every day." Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for those reminders. One final recognition this week. It's America's Safe Schools Week. Everyone plays a role and has a responsibility in making our schools safe. It's important that our schools are free of violence, weapons, drugs, bullying, and vandalism to ensure we're providing an excellent education. Mr. Jeff Prue, our Chief Operating Officer, is here to help recognize America's Safe Schools Week. Mr. Prue.
Thank you, Dr. Svine, Mrs. Williams, members of the board. Pleasure for me to back up here in front of you this evening. I want to read from you just quickly something that I picked up from the America's Safe Schools Week promotional website. This week is about motivating school stakeholders to vigorously advocate for school safety. School safety takes on many forms, including keeping campuses free of crime and violence, improving discipline, and increasing student attendance. Schools that are safe and free of violence, weapons, and drugs are necessary to ensure the well-being of all children and the quality of their education. And to that end, I tried to create a little short list of folks I think we need to thank in relation to keeping our schools safe. And you always hesitate to do that because the likelihood is you've forgotten somebody. But bear with me and indulge me. First and foremost, our school resource officers, as well as their colleagues and leaders at the Washington County Sheriff's Office and the Hagerstown Police Department. Other state and local enforcement officers, law enforcement officers, and other emergency responders that also provide support to our schools and our campuses on a regular basis. School leaders and safety committee members that create, model, and review school safety plans and incident response plans for everyday activities. Community partners that every day care for the children and teens of Washington County, both in our schools and through off-campus activities, creating engagement opportunities that keep our students off the streets. Students, families, and community members that support keeping schools safe by following established protocols and reporting information to schools and law enforcement when they come across scenarios that just don't seem right or appropriate, so that those matters can be further investigated. And lastly, our elected officials at all levels that continue to create policy and provide appropriate levels of funding to keep our schools safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prue. While students are on break, summer is one of the busiest seasons for our staff. It's prime time to make enhancements to our schools and facilities, and Jeff Prue is remaining here and is going to introduce Mr. Matt Burton and Jonathan Kearns from our facilities department to highlight some of our summer projects.
Thank you again, Dr. Savine. I will be very brief, and I'm going to let these guys run the show because they ran the show all summer. But To that end, I'm not sure either has presented in front of the board before, so to my far right is Mr. Matt Burton, who is our project manager within the Facilities Planning and Development Department. Matt's been with us a couple of years now in a couple of different roles, most recently vacating the position that Mr. Kearns is in, which is a project manager within the Maintenance and Operations Department. So they both do similar work, sometimes in different scope, relating to capital projects or projects that are self-funded by the general fund. But I'm going to simply turn the mics over to them and let them walk you through some images of a project we took over this summer.
Good evening, President Williams, Dr. Sabine, and members of the board. Tonight, Jonathan and I will give you a brief overview of 2022
Can you pull the microphone just a little closer to
summer
you?
projects.
Thank you.
The Facility Planning and Development Department had 18 projects active at 12 schools during the summer of 2022. Some examples of those projects include classroom modifications, security vestibule modifications, health suite upgrades, portable relocation, bleacher replacement, site lighting improvements, and even the conversion of an old tennis court to a pickleball court. That number also includes some of our larger projects, including the upgrades at Tech High, cafeteria expansion at South High, and the second phase of HVAC replacement at Smithsburg High. I'd also like to mention we have 4 projects that are already under contract for 2023. We have 3 out for bid, and 18 that are currently in design.
On the maintenance and operations side, we had 10 flooring replacement projects. We also had 15 small-scale or minor HVAC-related projects. We had 24 asphalt and/or concrete projects. We also had 5 gym and/or stage floor refinishing projects, and then we had 19 exterior and/or interior improvement projects throughout the school system.
The Boonesboro High School classroom modification project converted 5 open classrooms to 7 closed classrooms. The picture you see on the left is a mid-construction photograph of the auditorium classroom that was filled in with concrete. And the picture on the right is the new art room after construction. All classrooms received new flooring, walls, paint, ceiling, lighting, casework, and countertops. South High had several improvement projects this past summer. Shown on the left is the canopy for the modular buildings that were installed in 2021. On the right is the bleacher replacement in the gym. Not shown are the front canopy, cafeteria addition, and site lighting projects. All 3 of those projects are still in progress, unfortunately due to ongoing supply chain issues. The Western Heights driveway addition and improvement project moved the pedestrian sidewalk from the inside to the outside of the existing driveway and added a new driveway to access the gym parking lot. This project allows the school to separate bus and car rider traffic and makes it safer for students that walk. There's various pictures of the stages of construction at Western Heights this summer. On the left is a picture of 2 portables that were originally located at South High that were moved to Hickory Elementary School. On the right is a picture of the new health suite at E. Russell Hicks. Both projects gave each school much-needed additional space.
On the maintenance operations side, we have some example photos here as well. The first photo on the left is Fountaindale Elementary School. We replaced 8 the existing deteriorating brick paver patios around the perimeter of Fountaindale Elementary School and upgraded those to a more improved accessibility concrete landing. And in this example photo was actually a walkway that connected an existing ramp. On the right is Marshall Street Schools. That's the upper parking lot or the eastern parking lot that was aging. It was overlaid. This was working closely with Facilities Planning and Development, tying in with the contractor who was working on the Western Heights extension, the complete overlay of this upper eastern lot. And then also at Marshall Street, the western lot was seal coated as well with updated line striping for better traffic flow and parking there at Marshall Street. Some examples of our flooring replacement projects this summer. The photo on the left is the Hancock Elementary School Media Center, replacing the dated carpet with upgraded new tile. The photo in the middle is Clear Spring Elementary School, replacing some of the aging and deteriorating tile in 8 classrooms, upgraded new vinyl tile there at Clear Spring Elementary School in those 8 classrooms. And the photo on the right is the Paramount Elementary School Media Center, replacing that aging and dated carpet with upgraded floor tile. And some example projects, just miscellaneous projects throughout the school system. The first photo on the left is the E. Russell Hicks Gymnasium floor refinishing project. In the middle is the E. Russell Hicks, is a photo of an E. Russell Hicks bottle filling station. Many bottle filling stations were installed throughout the school system through this year. That work is ongoing, upgrading the drinking water and also in compliance with the MDE lead laws. And then the photo on the right is from Eastern Elementary School at the health room suite, putting in new cabinetry for that workstation for that Meritus staff member there.
Gentlemen, I'm sure board members may have some questions and comments, but I want to take this opportunity to thank you and your team members for your tenacity and your persistence. We recognize that with supply chain delays, it's been very challenging. So this quite a comprehensive number of projects that were completed, and we just thank you and the team members for your hard work and your effort.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll say is, John, I think you used the phrase small scale a couple of times, and maybe they are small scale compared to some of the other stuff we're doing, but when you go and look at all the money we spend, it certainly isn't small scale on that. And I know, as Dr. Savine said, as far as the work that's being done, the supply chain issues, we have some old buildings that need this stuff to be done. So it's not easy to get it all done. So good job, guys.
I'd just like to say that as a former teacher, summer is never long enough, so I can appreciate the amount of work that you accomplished in a short summer. So thank you for the great job you've done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members of the board, I have just 2 updates. As a reminder, all WCPS schools and offices will be closed this Friday, October the 21st for Association Day. Also would like to remind you that, and the public, that next week, the Maryland State Board of Education will be hosting 2 meetings here at the Center for Education Services on Monday, October the 24th. The State Board will be here in the afternoon at 1 o'clock, engaging in work session format with this board. Also, prior to that, some of the state board members will be arriving earlier and will be touring our Tech High School to see firsthand our strong CT programs, as well as the #1 apprenticeship program in the state of Maryland. There will also be on Tuesday, October the 25th, the State Board will host their full meeting starting at 9 a.m. here at WCPS in this very room, and it will include a highlight and a presentation from our team members on the Washington County Public Schools Apprenticeship Program. President Williams, members of the board, that completes my update. I'll remain available for any questions board members may have.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. Colleagues, any questions for Dr. Savine? Mr. Gessert?
I have just a follow-up. I think a couple meetings ago, we had a presentation about a skate track. Have we heard any more about that, the process we're in on that out at North High?
I know our team members have been working on that, been in communication, and I believe are in a position at a future meeting to bring it back to the board for an update.
Good.
Any follow-up questions, colleagues? Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Savine, for your update and for the reports to the board. Dr. Webster is here with personnel action.
Good evening again, Mrs. Williams, board members, and Dr. Savine. As discussed earlier in closed session, there are several personnel actions for your review. At this time, I ask for your approval of today's personnel actions.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Williams, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, as presented in the closed session.
Murray, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Any questions for Dr. Webster? Okay, we'll move to the vote. We're voting to approve the personnel actions dated October 18th, 2022, as discussed in closed session. All those in favor? Okay, thank you. We have 6 affirmative. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, reports to the board. We'll have our board member committee reports this time. Ms. Cruz, would you like to begin down there with student government?
Sure. This past week, last Thursday actually, we had our Washington County Board of Student Leaders meeting here at CES on the 3rd floor. Dr. Savine and Dr. Willow came in to say hi, and I just want to say that everyone in that room appreciated your presence there and going around and talking to all of the students there. Mr. Orth also sends his thanks, so it was great to see both of you involved in that.
Thank you. Mrs. Murray?
Human Resources will not be meeting again until the end of November.
Mr. Bickford, policy?
Policy meets November 10th. We're having a morning meeting this time. It'll be at 9:30 a.m.
Making note of that. Mr. Gaspard, facilities?
No, we have nothing for facilities.
Finance?
Our next meeting is tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Jeff is smart. He nodded his head when I'm right.
Evans. Dr. Zentmeyer, curriculum and instruction?
When we met, we considered the primary high-quality resources for the Science of Reading program. And they had a really cool book that explained what Science of Reading meant using Science of Reading. Actually, we should ask the state board to do that for Kerwin. It was wonderful. You could actually go through the book and see exactly what it meant, how to employ it. It was fabulous. We looked at policy IKA, which defines the process to calculate a student's grades, grade point average, and class ranking. And as you may well know by this point in time, we have an addition of an aviation program for our completers. You want to be a pilot? We have a completer for that. Want to be an airplane mechanic? We have a completer for that. Our next meeting is November 15th, 10:30 here to consider the program of studies, I think.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. We'll move to miscellaneous business. We have one item, and that is the future agenda item list. And you should have a list in your materials. As Dr. Savine has already said, we have the State Board here on October 24th and 25th. We'll be in work session with the State Board on October 25th. On November 1st, we will have the adoption of our board's 2023 legislative program, approval of the legislative response team members. That's happening November 1st. That's our next meeting. Just can't believe that we're into November already. It's just hard to imagine. Also on that day, we will be having a report on teacher recruitment, hiring, and the Teacher Induction Academy. Coming up on November 15th, there's a ribbon cutting at the J. Michael III Technical High School. That's it for miscellaneous business, and that brings us to board member comments. Dr. Zentmeyer, would you like to begin?
Okay. Last Tuesday was the 45th Showcase of Bands. I was probably the only one in the stands crying happy tears. Yes, I was one of those band geeks, and watching all of those kids make music was awesome. Next Saturday is the largest night parade on the East Coast. The Mummers Parade, it's not the largest anymore. It used to be the largest. And it's back with our students participating again, rain, shine, or snow, and I remember lots of snow. And finally, the class of 70, the Rebel class of 70, also that evening, turned 70. We have our 70th, our COVID postponed reunion that night. Makes me want to sing, if you're from the best high school, then yes, sirree, you're the very one I'm longing to see. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of my classmates, but I digress.
Thank you, Dr. Sedmeyer. Mr. Evans?
And I wish I could speak with the enthusiasm you do. So obviously Halloween coming up. I hope everyone has a great Halloween. There is a lot of bad stuff out there, to say the least, these days. So I hope parents are cognizant of what they see their kids getting, and I just hope everyone has a safe Halloween. And I was asking May earlier this evening about her next program. I will say, and I see a couple Barbara Ingram representatives here, so welcome. And maybe it's just me not being very smart, but I don't find it very easy to know when you guys have programs available to the public. I see a Google Documents calendar out there, but it just has everything, and it's just not very user-friendly. So if we could make that be more user-friendly, I think that would be a plus, because I would like to be able to attend more. So.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Gesser?
I don't have anything this evening.
Nothing from me.
Bedford? Mrs. Murray?
Yes, well, I want to thank Dr. Savine and Dr. Gladhill for recognizing that it is Learning Disabilities Awareness Month. I serve on the Washington County's Disability Awareness Committee. Angie Aldridge is the chair, and she and the committee do an excellent job recognizing the needs of our community. So I want to thank them very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Murray. Ms. Cruz?
Thank you.
I have nothing either this evening. Dr. Savine, do you have any parting words?
I do, President Williams and members of the board. I just want to take this opportunity to commend this board for your visionary leadership. It was just recently that our state superintendent of Maryland at the MABE annual conference chose to lift up Washington County Public Schools as he was highlighting the work with the blueprint. And there are 5 pillars, and he chose to highlight Washington County, how we are leading. You heard tonight, you saw it on display with our wonderful apprentices in the apprenticeship program. He highlighted how we were leading with the apprenticeship component. He also referenced how, in terms of teacher salaries, a starting teacher salary, how we're leading the way in Maryland from that component. One thing that he didn't mention is how we're ahead of the curve with our preschool programs. So I just want to say thank you for your leadership, as well as I want to recognize Dr. Michael and leadership team, because this did not happen overnight. It's been occurring for several years, and we have much to be proud of in Washington County, so I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Savine. If there's nothing further, we stand adjourned. Thank you.